This is looking like the hardest video I've ever done in my life. UFC 300 is this weekend, guys. We don't have time to waste. I know a lot of you guys are maybe a little more on the casual side. This is a massive event. This is going to bring a lot of fans. Don't feel ashamed to not know anything, because here I am. I'm here to help you guys. Or if you guys just need a little refresher, if you guys don't have the best memory, this is UFC 300 in 15 minutes. And before we get into it, guys, please hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share. This took a lot of work to prepare. And I also want to thank the sponsor of this video, betting.bet. Alright, guys, betting.bet is a great website. I've shouted them out before. They're in the link in the description. They have the best betting odds, betting sites, best parlays. If you're into betting, you'll definitely like them, and plus they support the channel. So guys, make sure to click the link in the description to join them. Now without further ado, let's get into this, guys. We don't have time to wait. UFC 300 in 15 minutes. Let's start off with the first prelim of the night, Cody Garbrandt versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Back in 2016, Cody Garbrandt was able to beat Dominic Cruz to become the UFC Bantamweight champion. Now he immediately lost his title to TJ Dillashaw and managed to lose a bunch of fights after that by knockout, leaving a lot of people writing him off. However, as of late, he's been able to string a few wins back together, is now getting an opportunity to fight once again in the top 10, and he will be fighting Deiveson Figueiredo. Now, Deiveson Figueiredo is new to the bantamweight division. You guys might know him for being the UFC flyweight champion. He fought Brandon Moreno 4 times, the only quadrilogy in UFC history. And yes, he did come out the loser in that rivalry. However, a lot of people talked about his weight, maybe him being a little overweight at flyweight. He moved up, fought Rob Font, beat Rob Font, is now fighting Cody Garbrandt. Now, a lot of fans have also been pointing out Deiveson Figueiredo, his weight cut. Seemingly, in media day, he looked very annoyed and did not look in great shape. However, my prediction for this fight is going to be Deiveson Figueiredo, and I'm going to go by early KO or sub, right? I could see maybe Cody Garbrandt getting hurt, shooting for a takedown, and getting subbed with the guillotine. However, if this fight goes long, I could also see Cody Garbrandt doing very well. Next up, Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. Now, both these guys are both legends of the game. Jim Miller at UFC 300 is getting a shot in the top 15 and has previously won at UFC 100 and 200. And the guy has wins over some of the best like Charles Oliveira, Donald Cerrone. And he's going to be fighting Bobby Green, and Bobby Green had a mixed 2023. Bobby Green won a few fights and even won against Grant Dawson, an up-and-coming lightweight prospect. However, he ended the year pretty badly, suffering a brutal knockout by Jalin Turner, who we're going to talk about later. And a lot of people criticized that stoppage, saying it was too late, including myself. That was a very late stoppage, and we're going to see how it affects him in this fight. However, my prediction is going to be Bobby Green by decision. Bobby Green has looked very good with his boxing, and I'm curious to see how that knockout takes effect on him. But I'm going to go with Bobby Green. I think he'll be able to win most of the exchanges here, and I think Jim Miller should go to the grappling a little bit, but we'll see, because Bobby Green also has some good wrestling as well. Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez is another fight that's going to be taking place. Jessica Andrade was a former strawweight champion, most notably winning against Rose Namajunas by slamming her on the canvas, and is coming off of a knockout win against Mackenzie Dern. Now, back in 2023, she was experimenting at flyweight, but ended the year off at strawweight, and looks like she'll be continuing that strawweight path once again by fighting Marina Rodriguez, who is a hungry up-and-coming contender. She has awesome striking and just dominated and battered Michelle Waterson back in September. My prediction for this fight is going to be Marina by decision. I think she's just taller, she's more ranger, she has power. I could see her maybe even knocking out Jessica Andrade. This fight is going to be a banger. I know a lot of people are hating on the fight, but I do think this is a good fight. I understand maybe some people saying it doesn't deserve to be on 300, but it is still a good fight. Now let's talk about the last early prelim, Jalin Turner versus Renato Moicano. Now, back in 2022, Renato Moicano took a short notice fight against RDA, where he lost most of the fight, although it did have a very good 5th round. And after that, he returned back in November, started to make a big name for himself by cutting an awesome promo, calling himself Moicano wants money. Since then, his YouTube channel has grown, his social media following has grown, and is coming off of a win against Drew Dober just a few months ago. And he's taking on Jalin Turner, who did knock out Bobby Green back in December. Like I said, it was a very late stoppage. And outside of that win, he did have a pretty rough 2023 by losing very close fights to Mateus Gamrot and Dan Hooker. Now, this fight is very hard to predict, but I'm going to go with Renato Moicano by decision. I think Renato Moicano will mix in the grappling. I was very impressed with his grappling against Drew Dober, and I think he's going to be able to mix it up then and steal some of the rounds, but I think he'll get it done by decision. Although you never know, Jalin Turner does have power. He does have quite the range on him, so it's going to be a tough fight. I honestly don't know. It's pretty close. Sodiq Yusuf versus Diego Lopes. Diego Lopes debuted in the UFC against Movsar Evloev, an undefeated featherweight who he almost beat despite being a massive underdog. Since then, his name definitely got bigger because he scored back-to-back great performances, and he's even coming off of a first-round knockout against Pat Sabatini. While Sodiq Yusuf has not had the greatest 2023. Most of the year he was injured and ended off the year by losing to Edson Barboza by decision despite almost finishing Edson in that first round. Now, this is Sodiq Yusuf's big shot finally to come back. I'm a fan of Sodiq Yusuf. He was actually my first interview, guys. If you guys recall, the first video on this channel was an interview with Sodiq Yusuf. So I just want to say to you guys, look, the guy is a great guy. He's a very nice guy. I had probably like single-digit subscribers, and this guy took the time out to do an interview with me. So maybe I have some bias here, but I'm going to go with Sodiq Yusuf by split decision. Diego Lopes could finish Sodiq Yusuf at any moment. Don't get me wrong, but I'm curious to see, can Sodiq Yusuf weather that storm and what happens after the fact, because Sodiq Yusuf also has some finishing potential as well. I think he's going to win by split decision because I think at the the end of the day, I think the first round will be for Diego Lopes, and I think we're going to see as the fight goes on Sodiq Yusuf take over, but it's really hard to judge. I'm a fan of both fighters, so I'm excited to see what happens there. Holm versus Kayla Harrison is one of the fights that I think is one of the most underrated fights on the card. There's a lot of stakes on this fight. Holm at one point was at the top of the bantamweight division by beating Ronda Rousey in a massive upset performance, and since then has always been at the top of bantamweight, never really got below the top 5. She's going to be facing Kayla Harrison, who's going to be making her UFC debut this weekend. Now, even though this is Kayla Harrison's UFC debut, she is very well known. She dominated in the PFL and has beaten every single person that she has fought. Her only losses to Larissa Pacheco, who she also beat 2 other times. She also has 2 gold medals in judo, and if she wins this fight, there are massive title implications on the line. If she wins, she might easily get the next title shot depending on when Juliana Pena comes back. My prediction for this fight is going to be Kayla Harrison by second round TKO. I think in the first round, we're going to see Kayla Harrison do very well. I think we're going to see Holm defend a lot of the submission attempts, but I think in the second round, we'll finally see Kayla Harrison break her down, and I think we're going to see a grounded pound finish here. It could also potentially be a submission, but I'm feeling a TKO finish. And another fight I'm super excited for is the fight between Calvin Kattar and Aljamain Sterling. Now, Calvin Kattar is coming off of an ACL injury where he tore his ACL against Arnold Allen back in 2022, and despite losing his last 2 fights, Calvin Kattar is in a pretty good position. He lost to Josh Emmett by razor close decision, where a lot of fans scored the fight for Calvin Kattar and thought that Josh Emmett shouldn't have won that fight. And then a few months later, he tears his ACL in a fight against Arnold Allen, a fight that didn't really get started, and he's going to be fighting Aljamain Sterling, who is debuting in the featherweight division. Aljamain Sterling is arguably one of the greatest bantamweights of all time, with wins over Corey Sandhagen, Piotr Jan, Henry Cejudo, but he last lost to the current bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley back in August, and instead of trying to stay in the bantamweight division, he decided to move up in weight to the featherweight division. And especially after looking at the physical difference between him at bantamweight and him at featherweight, I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling by decision. I think it's going to be 29-28. I think we're going to see it in the first round. I think it'll be close, and I think there's even a potential that he might 30-27 him, but I think Aljamain Sterling is going to get the grappling going by the second round and dominate the second and third round. In that first round, it might go to Calvin Kattar, but also could probably go to Aljamain Sterling because he's also good on the feet too. It's going to be tough, but I'm curious to see how Calvin Kattar comes back with the ACL injury. But speaking of ACL injuries, Jiri Prochazka versus Aleksandar Rakic. Now, Aleksandar Rakic is also coming off of his own ACL injury back in 2022, where he tore it against Jan Blachowicz in a very close and competitive fight. Now, he was supposed to rematch Jan Blachowicz back in January, but that fight got canceled due to Jan Blachowicz having to pull out, and this fight got booked immediately. Now, Jiri Prochazka was at one point the light heavyweight champion. He was supposed to rematch Glover Teixeira back in December of 2022, but suffered a massive shoulder injury, leaving him out for almost a year. Now, when Jiri came back, he fought Alex Pereira for the vacant light heavyweight championship. Now, in this fight, Jiri had a lot of success with his striking as well as his grappling, but he got knocked out in the second round, and many people even argued that it was an early stoppage. Now, this fight is going to be a good fight, and I don't know, I went back and forth a lot in my prediction, but my prediction is going to be Aleksandar Rakic by second round TKO. At the end of the day, Jiri's weakness is getting hit a lot. We've seen him get hit before, and I think Aleksandar Rakic is definitely one of the more underrated guys in the light heavyweight division. It's just he's been plagued with injury after injury after injury. I think he's going to get this done. I think it's going to be a war of a fight for as long as it lasts, but I don't see this one going 15 minutes, but you never know. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends in the first, to be honest. And for either guy, because Jiri could finish you at any point because he's so awkward with his style. Now we get to the pay-per-view section of UFC 300. Starting off the pay-per-view, Bo Nickal versus Cody Brundage. I can't even say this with a straight face. A lot of people have been criticizing this fight for being the opener of the pay-per-view, saying that this fight should be lower on the card because there's a lot of other fights that are better. I'm going to leave that for a separate debate. I'm not going to really talk about this. Let's just talk about the fight. Now, Bo Nickal's had a very short MMA career, being only 5-0, and is coming off back-to-back first-round finishes in the UFC, including one that he got by knockout. He's also a 3-time NCAA wrestling champion and a 4-time finalist for Penn State, while Cody Brundage is the biggest underdog on the card. Now, Cody Brundage has knockout power. He's knocked out people in the first round before, and also has a little bit of wrestling and shooting for takedowns before, but I still think that this fight is going to be going to Bo Nickal, but I'm going to guess second round submission. I think in the first round, we're going to see Cody Brundage, look a little gassed near the end, but the wrestling of Bo Nickal, and I think in the second round, we're going to see Bo Nickal get a takedown pretty quickly, and I think we're going to see him get an opportunity to submit Cody Brundage in that second round, and I'm going to think it's going to be early in the second round. It could even happen in the first. I think if Cody's going to win this by any chance, it's going to be by knockout early. Now, next, one of my favorite fights to talk about on this card, Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. Charles Oliveira was a former champion in the lightweight division with wins over Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, and Dustin Poirier. Now, back in June, he just beat Beneil Dariush by first round knockout, a fight that a lot of people didn't know he was going to win, and he was scheduled to rematch Islam Makhachev, the guy who took his title in the first place. But 10 days before the fight, Charles Oliveira had to pull out of the fight due to a nasty cut on his eyebrow, and now the UFC has rescheduled him against Arman Tsarukyan for a #1 contender spot. Now, Arman Tsarukyan is also coming off of a first round knockout of Beneil Dariush, and also has history with the current champion Islam Makhachev when he had a very close fight against him a long time ago. Dana White has confirmed that the winner of this fight will get a title shot. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to go with the underdog underdog pick and choose Charles Oliveira by first round knockout. In my opinion, we've seen Arman Tsarukyan hurt before in the past. Charles Oliveira has a very pressure forward style with great jiu-jitsu and could finish you at any moment. The guy's finishing potential is one of the craziest things. I think he has one of the most finishes in the UFC. I know he has the most submissions in the UFC. And I think he's going to pressure Arman Tsarukyan. I think even if Arman Tsarukyan grapples, I think people underestimate the jiu-jitsu of Charles Oliveira. People think it's easy to dominate Charles Oliveira in the grappling. If you pay attention to him grappling, and if you have any idea about grappling, you will notice that it is rare for anybody to pass the guard of Charles Oliveira, which means they could barely do anything. They might be able to land some ground and pound, which I think that Arman Tsarukyan is going to try to do. But I still think that at the end of the day, I think Charles Oliveira is going to find a sweep 2 get up like he did with Islam Makhachev. But I think he'll be able to finish it by the second round or maybe even the first. The next fight I want to talk about, Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway, one of the best fights on the card. Now, the BMF title was originally created for Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz to fight for it back in 2019, but the UFC brought it back in 2023 when Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje rematched. Justin Gaethje won the fight by second round knockout due to a head kick and is going to be the first person to defend their BMF title, and he's going to be defending it against no other than Max Holloway. Now, if you ignore Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway has not lost in 5 years. His last loss was to Dustin Poirier, moving up in weight on a bit of a short notice. This time around, he has a bit more notice and said that he has been bulking up since the end of last year. Now, Max Holloway, being the legend he has wins against the Korean Zombie, Frankie Edgar, Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez, and much more. My prediction is it's already out, guys. I already have a full video, guys. Go click it on the screen right now because I break down the fight more in detail than I did here in terms of a technical aspect. I also did it with the main event, but we're going to move on to the co-main event, which I didn't predict yet, which is Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan. Now, this is the first title fight to feature 2 Chinese fighters. Zhang Weili lost to Rose Namajunas back in 2021, but since then has returned to the strawweight division in strength by knocking out Joanna Young Jacek cold, to capturing the title against Carla Esparza, to defending it against Amanda Lemos. It seems that Zhang Weili is not only back, but better than she ever was, and she's going to be fighting Yan Xiaonan, who is also a great striker with knockout power, knocking out Jessica Andrade in the first round in her last performance, and has the potential to finish Weili at any moment with her strikes. My prediction for this fight, though, is going to be Weili by decision. 49-46 is my prediction. I think that she is going to have a lot of success with the grappling, mixing it up. However, if Yan could keep this on the feet, this is going to be an absolute war of a fight, and I could still see Weili winning it. Now, the main event against Alex Pereira versus Jamahal Hill. This is a lot of people's most anticipated fight. Now, I already talked about Jiri Prochazka having to vacate his title due to an injury. Well, after he vacated his title, Jamahal Hill stepped in to fight Glover Teixeira, where he became the light heavyweight champion. However, 6 months later, Jamahal Hill also had to vacate his title due to tearing his Achilles and was said to be out for a long time. Jamahal Hill also has a lot of good knockouts over Jimmy Crute and Johnny Walker, and with this injury, a lot of people are questioning, is he returning too fast against Alex Pereira? Because Alex Pereira had a lot of success in kickboxing, including knocking out Israel Adesanya, and after seeing Israel Adesanya's success in MMA, Alex Pereira wanted to join MMA, and Alex Pereira did great, even making it to the title, fighting Israel Adesanya once again and knocking him out in the 5th round. However, 6 months later or so, he did lose again in their rematch and decided to move up to light heavyweight, where he eventually captured the title against Jiri Prochazka, as we talked about earlier, and is now making his first title defense against Jamahal Hill. My prediction for this fight is out already, guys, so go check that out, and that is UFC 300 in 15 minutes. Now, we have some time left, as you guys could probably see, and in this time, I like to read some of the top comments from you guys from the last video. If you guys missed it, it was about Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway, and I broke down the fight there. Here's some of your top comments. Great stuff, Jack. I love when you said your people used to bully you in the comments, and now you appreciate the love. That's classic, and I appreciate you talking fast. I would never speed you up like I do others. Keep building, my friend. And yeah, I appreciate it. You guys probably need a little more context knowing that comment, seeing my last video, but just because I want to put it out there, guys, don't worry. Like, I wasn't trying to say I ever really cared about the comments. Like, trust me. Guys, I know people say all the time, oh, I don't care, I don't care. Guys, I legitimately could not care what you guys say negatively. I mean, if you guys are showing love, you guys are talking about the fights, of course I care, but I appreciate it. Thank you for the nice comments, and thank you guys all for the nice words. You guys always leave nice comments. I'm appreciative of it. I'm really rooting for Max on this one. He is my favorite fighter of all time, and I would love to see him touch gold again. But part of me has this really uncanny feeling that he might get Tony Ferguson. And obviously, he's referring to when Justin Gaethje absolutely battered Tony Ferguson in their fight. I don't think that'll happen. I think he's a bit more spry. I think he's a bit faster. I think he's younger, first of all. And I don't know, man. I mean, you guys saw my prediction. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it'll be close no matter what. I don't think it's going to be one-way traffic one way or the other. And yeah, like I said, go check out my video. I broke it down all there. That's me, brother. I listen to your video as I drive to Uber/Uber Eats for the past 1 to 2 years now. You're very smart. Keep going. We'll keep watching your videos. Trust. I'm going for Max Holloway too. And yeah, this comment absolutely warmed my heart because literally, as me myself was doing the Uber Eats grind back in like 2021 as soon as I got my license. And yeah, I used to watch people all the time when I was doing it, listen to people, listen to podcasts X, Y, and Z. And yeah, man, I just can't believe that somebody or even any of you guys really are actually just watching me. I appreciate all the love, guys. Seriously. If you guys get the like button, share, subscribe, all that, click the notification bell. I'm extremely grateful. If you guys want to see that that video I'm talking about right now, what is going to be on the screen. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are the best fan base in MMA. Let me know what fight you guys are most looking forward to for UFC 300. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.